You are making the world a better place by listening to the Joy of Living podcast. This is your guide to achieving a more purposeful, powerful, and positive life. Join Barry Shore in unlocking the best version of you and becoming happier, healthier, and wealthier. And now, here's your ambassador of joy, Barry Shore.
Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved, immortal beings, and good-looking people. If you're good-looking, so I was looking for and finding the good. You found good in abundance because you have chosen consciously and conscientiously to tune into the Joy of Living with your humble host, Barry Shore, known as the Ambassador of Joy. Notice I didn't say the Ambassador of Joy. The Ambassador of Joy. And you tuned in for one reason only. It's the best reason in the whole world, because you care the most, the entire world, about you. Y-O-U. And that's great, because when you are the best you make the world a better place. You build more bridges of harmony. You create more joy, happiness, peace, and love in the world. And this show, especially today, I'm so honored and happy to have with us the most frequent guest that we've ever had on the podcast. We've been doing this now for 6 years, hundreds and hundreds of people. One person has been back, thank God, a number of times, and by popular demand, because he's articulate, he knows what he's talking about, and he has some good insights. His name is Peter Nolan. We call it Nolan on the economy. So you're going to be, every time he's on, it's revelatory in the sense that, oh, wow, that's interesting, and something to be aware of, because we are now, I'm going to date this particular time. We're in November of the year 2025. So we are in a brand new administration for the United States of America. President Trump has been in office less than a year, making a lot of waves and creating a lot of turmoil and turning things over and changing directions and such. And it's an interesting take, and a lot of things are happening in the world because of it. And Peter is going to help us unpack some of these pieces for us today. Now, again, I want to urge everybody to understand that the joy of living is concerned about what we call the three fundamentals of life. And when you utilize and leverage and internalize these three fundamentals, the result is you'll be happier, healthier, and wealthier. We guarantee it. The three fundamentals are, number one, life has purpose. That's right. Your life has purpose. And when you lead a purpose-driven life, the result is you go MAD. Now, MAD is a wonderful acronym that stands for make a difference. You lead a purpose-driven life, you make a difference in the world. And the third is to uncover the power in the sequence of everyday words and terms. Simple example. The show is carried around the world. We have, thank God, over 525,000 people right now tuning in and inviting their family and friends every week. And so by every month, we're growing by almost 50,000 people, because you know that it's to your advantage. So www, it's on the web, stands for What a Wonderful World, WHATA. And of course, it's a great famous song by Louis Armstrong. Whenever you hear the opening bars of What a Wonderful World, what do? You smile. Now, SMILE is a great acronym that stands for Seeing Miracles in Life Every Day. And you know the story of Barry Shore. I was standing up in the morning completely healthy. In the evening, I was a quadriplegic from a rare disease. So I know about seeing miracles in life every day. The fact that I'm speaking with you right now and being able to move my upper body, lower body is still paralyzed, but it doesn't matter. I'm able now to move with the help of a 7-foot walking wand. So I'm a triped, not a biped. I just had 2 stents put in my heart, and I swim 1.5 miles every day, 6 days a week. So miracles do occur. And that's what we're talking about today. The ability to see life as a miracle. So what I'm going to do is just going to truncate everything I said and urge you to pay attention as we bring on what I consider a dear friend, a very kind and generous person. And kind stands for keep inspiring noble deeds. And I can't think of anyone that I want to share with you right now that to me inspires noble deeds more than the amazing, the wonderful, and prescient Peter Nolan. Peter, please say hello to 528,917 people around the world.
Well, hello to you, Barry, and I'm glad that you're in good health. We were worried about you, so good to see you.
Thank you. Nice to be seen. And that's again one of the beauties of friendship is that you have people that care, and I appreciate it, Peter. I do. Yeah. It means a lot, and it meant a lot to me when I was in the struggle that you were reaching out, and your caring made a difference.
Well, last time we were supposed to talk is when you were starting to have some issues, and I was hoping I didn't cause it.
No, you didn't actually.
Good.
So I'm just going to make mention of a couple of things about Peter. For those, everything's going to be in the show notes, so you don't have to write anything down. Just lean in and experience with that. But I want to make people aware that when I asked Peter to speak about the economy, so he's very humble in the sense that he said, "Look, what do I know? I'll tell you what I know about and what I can do. I don't have a crystal ball." Of course he doesn't. Nobody does. And he'll speak to a few issues that he can share with us and such. However, just want you to know, here's a man who's been working with a great company called Leonard Green Partners. I think, Peter, you were there for about 25, 30 years. You're a senior advisor now. And it's a company that handles 75 plus minus billion dollars in investments. And you opened up your own shop, as it were, Nolan Capital, and handling the family office. And the best thing I like about Peter is that he's devoted Cornellian, him and his wife and his children. And most important, as I just told you, the best part of Peter Nolan, happily married for decades with great kids that he still talks to and they talk to him. And that's the best thing about America, by the way. That's the greatest thing about business and success is that true success is what do you do generationally? How do you pass on values and wealth? Because they go together. In other words, the greatest wealth are values. It's also good to add to that an understanding that wealth comes with responsibility, meaning being aware of others and what you can do to be of benefit. And again, whether it's helping Cornell and helping veterans, and that's what Peter's about. So I'm going to just jump right in and begin to ask you, Peter. I'm going to make mention of something that's a little bit odd in terms of what usually we'll discuss, and I'm certainly going to talk about AI. There was a great, interesting article recently in the Wall Street Journal, picked up by the New York Times and such. And when I read it, I thought of you immediately. And the headline was, "Worst job market in 5 years for people entering into the job market." And I said, first of all, I'm not a big fan of news agencies that like to peddle negative. Okay, that's my bias. By the same token, you've mentioned a number of times on the show that when you entered the job market these many decades ago, it wasn't exactly as if 4 decades, as if everything was just rosy. Wow, this is the best job market and what. So I'd like you to address when you got into the job market and what you're thinking about for people now entering into the job market. What kind of resolution should they have in their mind?
Well, thanks, Barry. You're always too kind. When I entered the job market, I actually originally graduated college in 1980, and the job market was terrible then. And so I decided, I applied to try to get my MBA without working. So normally you go 4 years to college and then you work for someplace for a couple of years and you get an MBA. And for whatever reason, they took me into the MBA program, even though I didn't have out of school work experience. And that was because the job market was bad, right? It was terrible. So when I graduated with an MBA in 1982, it was 10% unemployment. Right now, unemployment, hovers around 3-ish%, I think. The Dow Jones Industrials was at 750, not 750,000, 750.
By the way,
And,
it's a number that people in today's world can't even begin to understand.
right. No, it was a horrible job market. And what's funny was, I was living in a fraternity, and we didn't have internet, right? We didn't even have fax machines. So you had to actually physically write a letter to someone to apply for a job. And we had this giant wall about the size of a billboard, and it was just covered with everyone's rejection letters. And we used to write on it the ones we liked the best. But, I can't say anyone was particularly troubled about it. I mean, I think that, all of my friends coming out of school, we knew it was hard to get a job, but no one was terribly worried. Now, maybe it's because I was with, group of people that friends of mine in school were, engineers and computer scientists and pre-med, and I was in the business program, so there wasn't a lot of people that were doing sociology or something, which makes it a lot harder to get a degree. It was more what they call the STEM fields. So we weren't terribly worried, and I think today, there's people, because of social media in particular, put so much pressure on themselves, and they see online these aspirational lifestyles that if they're not replicating that perfect life, they feel miserable. So, and I'm not saying it's easy. There's a lot going on. I think the next wave of automation, both AI and it hasn't even really hit yet, but robotics is going to continue to change things, and that will put more stress on people who fail to adapt to the direction the economy is going in.
So I want to make mention of two things that you said here that I think are universal and beneficial. One is, you mentioned about the people that you were involved with, hanging around with, that you could count as your friends and such. And we have an interesting phrase that I learned from a friend of mine who played ball at Ohio State. And back then, 3-4 decades ago, and the coach of Ohio State football was one of the most famous in the country and one of the winningest. And he taught his players something called YAW, YAW, which stands for you are who you associate with. And when you hang around with people who are confident, capable, caring for one another, it makes a difference in your world. And I think what you just articulated here was that, okay, you're getting rejection letters, and we'll get a bunch of them. It's like being an author. You get 300 rejection letters before somebody says hello, and then you're writing Harry Potter. So
Yeah.
the key is your mindset. And I want to emphasize that to people. We have, thank God, we're blessed, Peter. The hundreds of thousands of people listening to us, 85% of them are under the age of 35.
Wow.
And those are young people.
So they're listening to a couple old crows.
Right. So this is really critical to what you were saying, because you mentioned a Dow of 750. It doesn't compute in people's minds when you're talking about a Dow of plus minus 46,000.
Right.
It is beyond the understanding, because you said we didn't have a fax machine, we didn't have the internet. You can name all the things that we didn't have because they were in the future. So its mindset is a critical aspect, I believe, of success. I think you'd agree with that. Is that true?
Yeah, no, I think it's true. I think there is a mentality that the world owes you. And if you step into life and say the world doesn't owe me anything, I think you'll have part of being happy is to be appreciative of whatever it is you do have, and not to be regretting what you don't have. Um, I just think stress, for example, there's been a real cultural shift over the years where students, young people, have been told that they should be stressed about studying, maybe should be stressed about getting a job, etc. I just don't have any recollection of people talking about their stress levels when I was in schools. They may have said they have a ton of work to do, and they did,
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't say, well, I'm stressed about it. And I think it is, having grit, the ability to bounce back no matter what happens is an important characteristic to being successful.
Okay.
And to be humble about it. Again, if you think the world owes you a lot, you're going to be disappointed, because the world's not set up to deliver for you. The world's set up that there's opportunity everywhere, but you have to go out and make it happen, whether that's finding a job or finding a spouse, or whatever it is you're trying to do.
So there's a wonderful quote that has been beneficial to me, and I'm going to mention it to you anyway. And I think it's part and parcel of what we're going to talk about when we get deeper into the economy. And the quote is, "Life is 10% what happens and 90% how you respond."
Right.
So I think you articulated that wonderful. The G word of grit and the G word of gratitude. Interesting enough, in the word gratitude is the word grit. They go hand in glove. Isn't that interesting? And
I never thought about it that way until this very moment.
hey, isn't that's why we love sharing with each other, right? Barry, you're so cool when it comes to words. Yes. And the other word is the R word, which is a derivative of grit, which is resilience.
Right.
The ability to be resilient in a marketplace. So you mentioned another R word I want to talk about, and that is robots. And I want to talk about, because Peter, thank God, is blessed with, in his home office, of creating and working with and building a number of businesses. And one of them is, I don't know if you still have it, the pizza business, Fresh Brothers.
Now I sold it.
Okay, we sold that. Okay, but let's play with it just for a moment, for another minute. If you hadn't sold it, would you be considering using robots in creating and making pizza?
Well, the answer is long term, yes. Short term, there's not that capability yet. But I think it's really coming. When I started in I guess I could say it. When I started on Wall Street, robotics was a hot thing that had just started. There was a company called GM Fanuc that made one of the first assembly line robots. Just those arms that come down and weld stuff and painted things. And that was, you've had various market booms, right? So in the early 80s, you had the robotic electronic boom. And then you had the dot-com boom, late 90s. and now we're in the middle of the AI boom. Along with, I think we're going to see, and I think Elon Musk is going to be at the forefront of this. We're going to see a robotics boom.
Okay, on that.
But to answer your question, I think that one of the things that's happening in places like California is the cost of labor has gone up tremendously.
I want you to hold that note, because we're talking about boom, 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 boom. We don't want to lower the boom. We have, thank God, sponsors that love our show. We wouldn't have them on. We didn't think they're worthy of your time and attention. We vetted them. So we'll be right back with more Peter Nolan on the economy and your world. We're going to have this brief message. Don't go away. Good day. Beautiful, bountiful, beloved immortal beings, and good.
Hello, skincare connoisseurs. If you think you have tried everything in skincare, you are going to love what I am about to tell you. I'm pharmacist Benjamin I. Fuchs. I'm a dermatology pharmacist. And what I've discovered in my compounding pharmacy after decades of working with patients with skin traumas and skin diseases is the missing link in skincare is topical essential nutrition. And because of this missing link, we're not maximizing the potential of topical skincare. We're leaving skin beauty and skin health on the table. And that's why I formulated my Truth Treatments. Listen, the skin's an organ. It needs and wants and craves nutrients, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, fatty acids, and plant-derived minerals, and now it can get them in super high concentrations in my Truth Treatments. Originally formulated for dermatologists and their patients, now they're available to you. Check them out today at truthtreatments.com, and I know you are going to love the truth.
Good looking people, maybe good looking. So I was looking for and finding the good. Our cup runneth over with good. His name is Peter Nolan. Nolan on the economy. And we've been talking about you and how you respond to what's happening in the world and using grit and gratitude and resilience. Then we moved into the robotics world. And now Peter's been talking to us about different booms. And as he said, we are in the midst of one of the largest, most expansive booms in the history of humanity, AI. And he just mentioned, of course, one of the most interesting humans on the planet, Elon Musk. So Peter, continue if you'd be so kind. What do you think Mr. Musk is going to do?
Well, I think, and again, I know nothing more than anyone else that just pays attention and reads and watches certain things on the internet. But I think that we have the AI boom, which is one of the biggest ones that I've witnessed during the course of my career, resulting very quickly in trillion-dollar companies. And then I think that that's going to be followed and integrated with the robotics boom. And if you look at, you were asking about the restaurant business. If you look at trying to operate in the state of California, you have mandated higher wages from a regulatory point of view. You have so employee wages are quite high. So to hire an employee is very expensive. You have insurance. You have litigation, particularly in California, where it's a highly litigious state. So if you do have a population of employees, you have to expect that there's going to be just litigation, which sometimes it's well merited, but most of the time it's not. It's just class action lawsuits. And I think that people that manufacturing things, whether it's pizza or whether it's putting caps on bottles, I think automation is going to be one of the answers. And that question, then he asked, well, what happens to the people that had those jobs? And I don't know. I think history shows us that when automation occurs and a job is no longer done manually, it creates another opportunity. I don't know what those opportunities are for employees. It may be, we could see in 15 years that the normal work week is 4 days instead of 5 days, or 3 days instead of 5 days. Something like that could happen. It could free up a lot of leisure time, but I really don't know.
On that note, I'm going to mention to you again, one of the things I learned by having these 2 stents put in my heart. I was in the hospital a total of 9 days just because of situations, and it was all good. I learned a lot about being in the hospital. One of them was that most of the nurses that I interact with, I've always asked questions, I like to learn, they were working 3 days, 12 hours, 13 hours, they told me, 13 hours, 3 days. And I can tell you that almost to a person, they liked it. One of them was very expressive about liking it because her husband also worked 3 days. He said, we go away for 4 days.
Right.
We're here in Henderson, Nevada, and the ability to go within, I don't know, pick a number, 5 hours in an RV, even 7 hours, you can be in so many wonderful places. You can be anywhere from California coast to the Colorado and New Mexico and down into Mexico. Just so in 4 days, you can do a lot. It's a time about leisure. So the 3 days is an interesting concept. Again, making sure you have sufficient money or income to be able, it's not just I'm working 3 days, I'm working 3 days and making sufficient to be able to pay for 4 days. So I think you're bringing up a great point. I'm going to make mention of one thing that is happening according to what Elon Musk wants to, and then I want to go specifically to talk to you about water and inflation and New York and a couple other things. So we all have seen, at least in the United States, we've all seen this interesting, strange shaped automobile that Elon Musk has put out as the latest Tesla. It was a breakthrough in terms of people either love it or they hate it, right? And it's selling very well. However, he is stated publicly in a lot of articles that I've read, and you probably also, what he wants to do is he wants to make those into what he calls robo-taxis.
Right.
Now, a robo-taxi means on demand. And think of an Uber without a driver. In other words, driverless Teslas in the new shape of that large automobile and he wants to have 1 million robo-taxis on the road in the next 5 years or so. Now, this is Elon Musk. He thinks big and strong and fast. That's a lot of stuff happening when you're talking about Uber drivers and DoorDash, and it can shift a whole group of people. So you're right. What do we do when Peter doesn't want to own a car anymore?
Right. Well, look, we're this close to fully automatic driving. So, it's out there now, right? Waymo is operating. Tesla's about to. It's funny, I've had a Tesla that has self-driving capability, and for the first time ever, I use the automatic parking just to have it. You hit a button and the car parks.
Wait a minute, and it works?
It worked great. Now, I've had, by the way, that car is a 2024. So I've had it for a couple of years now. I just never, I guess I was too chicken to try it. I was worried about it, but it worked great. So, it's here. This is not, this is not sort of speculative stuff. I was in the 70s, I think I went to the World's Fair in Montreal and saw a video phone, right? So I was a kid, saw this video phone. It's only now that we have a video phone.
Right.
It wasn't like in the 80s we had video phones, or 90s we had video phones, or the 2000s.
Years, right.
It took a long time, but that rate of change is accelerating so dramatically. And it's going to be, the societal issues are, someone smarter than me is going to be able to figure that out. They're going to be issues, but I think when technology advances, it creates opportunity. I mean, if you look at 200 years ago, everyone worked in agriculture. Now, very few people work in agriculture. And we have plenty of food. We have more food, more people, more food than we've ever had in the history of the world. So, I think we're at a real important junction, because robotics and sort of the new wave of automation is going to be greatly enhanced by artificial intelligence. Without both of them, you don't get the full package.
So let's talk about this convergence. People call it a perfect storm. I want to avoid storm. I want to say convergence, as you just mentioned here, and the ability to integrate artificial intelligence, which, like you, I only know what I read and hear and such like that. I don't understand it. However, I think I understand the larger picture of what people want to do. And even that is fascinating and spine tingling in some way. However, when you combine AI into what we'll call, for want of a better term, practicality, like parking your car, that's
Right.
practicality, right? That's the robotic. Now, Amazon has 1 million, they just passed the 1 million mark in robots in their distribution centers, and what they want to do with the drones and such. So the ability to shape the future using AI and robotics, everything, like you said, from agriculture all the way through to that which affects our daily living, just call a car or whatever it is that you need to do. The key is, as everybody's talking about, the E word, energy. So I'm going to make mention something to you, and I want you to talk about it, because you're in the water business. I'm not sure which part, you do something in the water business, I understand. So energy, as a friend of mine said, who's also interesting in the water business and a different aspect, he says energy is fascinating. Everybody tells us we're going to need more energy we haven't not thought possible. We just you can't run modern society with AI on the energy we have now. And we have more energy than has ever been produced in the world, in the United States of America. And we're going to need to up that world, call it a number, tenfold. It's really more than that. Just use tenfold as an example. He says what you also need, because you're building plants that are going to be hot, he says what you need is a lot of water to cool those hot engines. And he says we don't have that water. Water is really critical to the needs of AI. In other words, two things coming together that you might think, well, gee, we can do that. It's not so simple. And Elon Musk is building something outside of Memphis, Tennessee, in a rural area. He took over an entire county and is building one of the biggest data centers in the world, right?
Right.
But you need both energy, which is hot, and water, which is cool. Now, you're in the water business. What do you do? What is the water business vis-a-vis you and what you see happening in the world?
Well, we sold our water company since we last talked. So.
Oh.
and ours was involved in wastewater treatment. So, basically when you have a manufacturing facility and you have wastewater, you can't dump that stuff into the sewer system without treating it. So our company helped companies that dealt with their wastewater and trying to make it compliant with the local sewer systems. But yeah, so you're gonna need power, and you're gonna need water, and there's It's my understanding. China still. I got into a debate with someone, and I was wrong. They were right. China still produces and uses significantly more energy than the United States. So the whole world, as the world advances and this technology advances, they're going to need more energy. And you're to process all, you need to cool it as well. And it's a great question. Now, 2/3 of the world's surface is water, so this happens to
Right.
be brackish. But there's a lot of water out there. But these will be the battles in the future, I guess, and probably pretty quickly. They're putting
So,
they put a big they're put the Taiwanese are putting big data centers and chip manufacturing in Arizona, and there's not a lot of water there. So someone's got to figure that out.
well, again, isn't it fascinating on a very human level that the things that make a difference are those that are so fundamental? Water,
Yeah.
it's maybe desalination. Who knows what's going to be? But
Right.
some group is either working on it or thinking about it. It
Oh,
needs to
sure.
happen because otherwise we can't do this.
Yeah. Well, the great thing about this country is it's not the government thinking about it, but it's entrepreneurs, individuals, scientists, in a distributed fashion are all thinking about it, and they're all competing. And there's going to be winners and there's going to be losers in this race, and the winners will survive. I mean, Google wasn't the first web browser, and uh, there's several others that preceded them, but they just weren't as successful. So I think that's a good thing. That is one of the great things about capitalism.
Let's talk about that as a lead-in to its counterpoint, which is communism on the extreme, and socialism is sort of light communism. And here we had something that happened just recently. And look, you're a big fan of New York and New York City. You have a house there. Cornell is there. I mean, you have roots in New York. And to me personally, it's troubling, not so much that this unique being won. You got to give him credit for being out there and pushing and getting it done. It's the people that voted for him. Do they even begin to understand, Peter, what it is they're getting involved in?
No, they don't. I think that. Well, let me ask you a question, Barry. If there is a bad guy in a movie, what does that bad guy do for a living?
Yes, unfortunately, he runs a large corporation, doesn't he?
Right, right. Yeah, evil characters. I mean, they don't portray college professors as the evil character, or they don't depict a lot of different people as the evil characters, but it's always the evil businessman capitalist. And I think that what happened in New York City is you just have a lot of very young people that are struggling. It's a very expensive place to live, and they think the government's the answer to their woes. And short term, there are things you can do. You can freeze everyone's rent. You can mandate free transportation with buses, but eventually the bill comes due, and I think there's this general naive thought process or wish process that surrounds long-term versus very short-term thinking, and the result is always the same, and it's I don't know what to say. I think New York City is going to go through a very, very interesting experiment, and I'm not terribly optimistic about it. Now, look, I happen to have a reason I had to be in New York last week. It's still hopping. It's a vibrant city. There are tons of tourists. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's the most vibrant city in the world, and it's the world center of finance, among other things. So, one political leader is not going to change it overnight, but they can start to try, and I'm not terribly optimistic.
Well, I'm going to make a note here what you just said. Again, here we are in November 2025. The fellow hasn't even taken office yet. It is, we'll call it Christmas time, Rockefeller Center and the tree and the feeling of Times Square, and it is the most vibrant city in the world, because everybody in the world knows about New York City, wants to be in New York City, wants to have a piece of New York City. Mayor Bloomberg said many years ago, when people accused him and asked him, why are things so expensive? He said very bluntly, New York City is a high-end destination. We're a premium place. This is the Ritz-Carlton of the world. This is not the Motel 6.
Right.
And it's very true, by the way. It's always been that way. I lived in New York City on the East Side decades ago. And I can tell you something, Peter Nolan, it wasn't cheap then. It never was. Never.
No, it was never cheap,
Right. I mean,
it was worse then, but it wasn't cheap.
Yeah, by the way, it was. And I had friends who lived in the Village. I was very fortunate. I had a girlfriend whose father was very rich. So we lived okay in the Upper East Side. We had friends in the Village. They slept 4 people to a 700 square foot apartment.
Yeah.
College kids, white college kids, the sort of the privilege. That was it.
Yeah.
Okay, it's an interesting dilemma. Got to be careful. A year from now, we're going to be doing our show, and then we'll say, okay, he's been in office for almost a year. Now what? Let's see if, in fact, because we're going to go to a quick break because we have sponsored lovers. We'll be right back. More Peter on the other side. Don't go away. Opportunity. What an opportunity. I'm going to use 2 4-letter words right now. Free gift. Free gift. Yes, you can have a copy of my best-selling book, The Joy of Living, How to Slay Stress and Be Happy, the ebook version for absolutely free. All you have to do is send an email to me, Barry, Barry, at barryshore.com, and in the heading, the subject line, just write free gift. It's as easy as that. This is a life-changing, life-enhancing opportunity. Barry at barryshore.com. You'll be glad you did. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Free gift. Do it now. Take the action. Make it happen right now. Best wishes. Bye. Good day. Beautiful, bountiful, beloved immortal beings, and good-looking people. Maybe you're good-looking because you're always looking for and finding the good. We found good in abundance. His name is Peter Nolan. We call him Nolan on the economy. He is our most beloved by people sending in notes guest we've ever had on the show, and I'm honored, privileged that he comes back at least 2 or 3 times a year. And it's always a delight because he's always sharing with us insights, and we've already had a number of them here. I want to make mention, since we're talking about elected official, let's talk about President Trump for a moment. Now, again, doesn't matter what your politics are. You love him, you don't love him, et cetera, et cetera. Let's be blunt. He was elected November 5th, 2024. Took office on January 20th. So he's not even in office 1 year. Everything about America, from a perspective of finance, border, people, is different. compared to the previous administration, we have adults running the country now. Now, you might not like them, you might not like their politics, but they're adults. In other words, the head of Homeland Security has a mandate, and he's fulfilling that mandate. Get rid of bad people. President Trump's mandate is, I'm here to bring more money into the United States than ever has happened in the history of this country. And he's doing it in bizarre, interesting, fascinating ways, because tariffs don't work, do they, Peter? And yet, maybe they do. What do you think?
Well, I think in the long run, look, there's sort of, as I understand it, and I'm not an expert on tariffs, but there's been two reasons that they put tariffs on. One is reciprocal tariffs, right? You're charging me a tariff, or you're, even worse, banning my product from being sold into your country. I'm going to tariff your like product. I'm absolutely in favor of that. Now, there is a trade balance, like, I buy more from you than you buy from me, and I'm going to tariff you because of that. I'm not in favor of that. I think tariffs are, I really gravitate towards free trade, because if you try to protect an industry too much, I'm old enough to see what happened to the car industry and the steel industry, where they just got crushed by, at the time, particularly the Japanese, outperformed us in cars and outperformed us in steels, and there were tariffs that were put on. I remember, I'm old enough to remember when Richard Nixon had wage and price controls.
Of all people, Republican.
Yeah, Republican, right. And so I'm not a big fan of the government intervening in private market transactions. So now that, that's combined with the political. So you had the tariff thing, and I think to some degree it was time to retaliate on trade where countries were really treating us unfairly. But I think we've, in my opinion, we've overdone it, and we've got to get to stability. It's for a lot of businesses, it's very difficult to plan when the government is making moves that affect your ability to engage in commerce. We have a company that makes wipes. Think of baby wipes or makeup remover wipes. A number of the raw materials we source from countries, and all of a sudden, our costs have spiked up considerably because of tariffs. And you can say, well, you probably shouldn't have bought that raw material from that other country. And it's like, well, some cases there's not a qualified supplier here.
Right, you can't get it here.
The tariff's not going to create that qualified supplier. So it's a challenge. And, my hope is that things continue to settle down. I think, having a lot of volatility out there is not a good thing. And I think they came in very, very well prepared to get a lot of stuff done early. And they did. And now they've got to work their way through it and start to live with these decisions that have been made, whether that be what they've done with immigration or what they've done with tariffs. Overall, though, there's a lot of anxiety out there, even though the markets are at record highs. And, I'm concerned about the backlash from all this stuff.
Let's pray that, again, since they are adults, that there are a number of them, whether it be Mr. Lutnick or Besant and other people, that can steer a good course. You're right. You can shake things up. Again, so I mentioned it's not even a year yet.
No.
You can shake things up. And the other piece is the potential peace dividend that Mr. Trump is bringing to the world. To be a man of peace while at the same time renaming the Department of Defense the Department of War. It's a very interesting balance of worldview, isn't it? You know, to make sure that and position us as the foremost military power in the world. And the words are, do not tread on me, in the sense of, don't even begin to think about it. You have right here in Southern California, right near where you live, very interesting man. I hope that you can meet him. Young guy, Palmer Luckey. Are you familiar with Palmer Luckey?
Yeah, Andrew, I've heard of him. I've never met him.
It would be, if you could find a way to meet him, what a fascinating character, 38 years old. And he, like the people at, is it Palantir? Oh, no, another one of Peter Thiel's companies that are deeply involved in creating those tools necessary for America to be the foremost power in the world, so that nobody would even think of challenging us. And that is a different approach than certainly happened during the previous administration. And I think it bodes well for our country in terms of creating an infrastructure that says we're strong, we're capable, and we do that in everything that we do. We do that in business. We do that in making sure that our military is strong. We do that for our people. That's why we want to make sure that our immigration is not illegal, and that people who are on, let's say, programs that have been abusing them, too many millions of people abusing programs that are getting money, people are dead or that shouldn't be getting them. And again, those are drains that are being looked at. So I'm just personally, I'm happy. I wanted to hear from you. I agree with you wholeheartedly. If you can work tariffs in a way that says to somebody else, you know something, you haven't been doing right by us, and we're going to create that little bit of a balance, maybe an imbalance, but we're going to get back on track. That's a good thing, because we care about us first, right? It's America.
Yeah.
America first, not America only. It's America first. Okay. I wanted to ask you, but your personal feelings, what you see vis-a-vis inflation. Do you see it being under control over the next little while and not going up like it was?
It's not going to go up like it was. I think that, we've seen inflation go from 9% to 3%. Maybe that's still too high. But I think we're kind of settling in towards a normal sort of inflation period. And I don't see the willingness to flood the market with dollars that we saw in the prior 4 years. So, doesn't mean things are going to get cheaper. And for some people, that's a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, I don't see big inflation pressure. I think it's what I would call normal sort of pattern, 2 to 3% a year.
I tell you why I'm glad that you said it, and I trust that you're correct. Part of what I was reading about the people who said they were going to vote for this fellow who now is the mayor of New York is that they were saying, look, I'm making six figures, 100, 200,000 a year, and I still can't live. I can't afford the American dream. And I think what happened is that people didn't realize how badly inflation was eating away at purchasing power. In other words, $100,000, call it 15 years ago. Okay, you could live. You compound inflation over 15 years in not good numbers, well, that eroded your ability to afford things that even when you make 100,000 now, you're right, you can't.
Who was it said that one of the most powerful forces in the universe is compound interest?
Yes, Now it's
know.
compound inflation.
I think it was actually Einstein.
It may have been.
I could be wrong.
By the way,
Yeah.
even if it was, it's a good quote from him. He was a smart guy.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yes. So you're right. Compound interest is a positive. Compound inflation is a negative.
Yes. Yeah.
And we need people. The genius of America, in my humble opinion, is the ability to have hope. You said it a number of times, opportunity.
I think we're hitting a period where there's some level of disillusionment, and that results in some sort of outcomes like we saw in New York City, and we really need to think about how to address that. I don't happen to have a quick answer, but it's an issue.
All right. Well, it's also an issue that we're coming to a close on our time together. And as I say, I'm loath to say these words, and we have 3 quick questions for you, Peter Nolan. You ready?
Sure.
You might remember these questions. Number 1, will you come back again?
If you're here, I'm here.
That's very good. Number 2, Peter Nolan, and I think I know the answer already because you've said it before. You have 80 seconds only to answer this. What is your most fervent desire?
Well, as I've always said, the health and happiness of my family, my children, and it's my desire to see our country remain at peace, and not to see some of the issues we've had in the past, and I think that's important. You know, I think that we're in a pretty good spot, and hopefully that basically benefits everyone.
That's a great desire. Thank you so much for that. And number 3, may I give you a hug in front of 529,817 people around the world?
Online only, Barry.
All right. Remember, HUG stands for heartfelt, unlimited giving. 1, 2, 3. And you're listening to The Joy of Living with humble host Barry Shore, the ambassador of joy, and our amazing guest, Peter Nolan. And I must tell you, you tuned in for one reason only, because it's about you. And you've done very well today by learning more about you. And no matter how great Peter is, and he is, and about how wonderful Barry is, and he is, it's really, the show is all about you and how you become the best you. So utilize that which we're learning here today and make it you so you can help others as well. That's the real genius of living in this world, to be of service, to be of benefit in the world. And our blessing from Peter and Barry is go forth, live exuberantly, spread the seeds of joy, happiness, peace, and love. Go mad. Go make a difference. Peter, don't go away.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Joy of Living podcast. Now that's another step towards your healthier, happier, and wealthier life. Never hesitate to do good in the world, no matter what the situation. Join us for another upbeat discussion next time at barryshore.com. And be sure to leave a rating and subscribe to the show to get more conversations like this. And remember to share it with your family and friends too. See you on the next episode.